Let's begin.
Could just do musical interview.
Yeah. My cousin Callum, you met Callum, didn't you? He was there the other week, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He's doing like a musical intro for us.
Is
like
he?
Like off Jackass, the beginning of Jackass.
Yeah. There are some brilliant ones out there.
Well, he's going to do ours, because you get royalty issues and all that stuff, don't you? So should be cool.
Well, it'll be good to advertise local businesses and different things.
Have we got image rights for the
cinema has?
Nice.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Well,
if we
throw us under the bus, nice.
If we run out of topic of conversation, can we always review the movie?
Well, I've watched it fucking 4 times now, so
right.
Okay. So how's prep going?
It's going really well.
Yeah.
I'm ready for this one. Last year was. It was a bit of a mistake competing at the start of the year. I think I just went with the flow and it led to a bit of a burnout. But everything happens for a reason. And it meant I could sit out the end of the season and watch the various national championships play out. So I knew the competition. I was getting that. Remember Mr. T in Rocky 3 where he's just watching Rocky
Happy to the fool.
Exactly. So I was building that fire. And as a result, as soon as New Year kicked in, I'm hitting the road running, and I'm going to smash this prep. And the best thing is about it when you get really excited about the possibilities of a prep and what you can achieve in that short time. Yeah, and especially with the stage I'm at now, and the age I'm at now, because that's that thing with training and competing at my age. I am seeing it as a bit of a challenge for the older gentleman to try and push the boundaries of this sport and see what is truly possible, because people have got this misconception that you reach a certain age and your body starts to go downhill.
Well, clearly not.
I'm here to prove that.
You say you just started prep?
Yeah, so I'm in prep as well, and I can definitely relate to what Daz said in terms of you need that. When you've competed multiple times, the first couple of times, obviously, you're motivated because it's something new. But when you come back on stage and you haven't got a really strong why, and that was me in 2020, you just don't have the same excitement.
No.
And without that goal value and excitement, you don't push yourself as hard as you could or should push yourself. But yeah, this season, 2020 was the last time I stepped on stage, and definitely shouldn't have done it because lockdowns, no gyms, dropping loads of muscle and just looking probably the worst I've looked on stage, which is not good. Obviously, it was my 4th season competing.
So why did you? Why did you then?
Well, I did the same thing that year, and it was kind of just making the most of it. There was only limited
it's like a learning
opportunity.
curve.
No, well, at the time it was full lockdown. There was very limited opportunities, and for me, BNBF was still right up until the last minute. We were still deciding whether to do the British finals. Yeah. And that was the thing. And then Vicky kept ringing me, and different lockdowns were going into play, and it became just the ultimate challenge, just to be able to stage a show. And the few that did make it to that competition,
there was a sense of collectiveness for stepping on stage right here.
It was really, yeah.
But for me, I can talk now and talk about how it was a mistake, but I don't necessarily regret it. But for me personally, it was just because I had nothing going on. I was working, at the time I was working for Westbridge. I got made redundant because I was quite new to the company, so and nobody was buying furniture. And I'd not long moved into a house, renovated the house. My dad was working abroad, so I was just in the house on my own. And I was I just had nothing, because none of us did really.
So just something to do then, really.
Yeah, and I've always been, rightly or wrongly, and now I can identify what it's a bad thing. It can be a blessing or a curse, but I've always had this thing of, if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. So, put on social media and things, I'm going to compete in 2020. I'd kind of been gearing up for it since 2017, and then just followed through with it. But I, physically, in terms of outcomes, in terms of the package I brought to stage, I shouldn't have done it. But at the same time, I'm kind of glad I did, because it also, because I was so disappointed with how I looked, it really motivated my off season this time.
Everything's a learning experience. Everything happens.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Fucking hell, I've learned a lot doing these fucking things last week.
I bet. But it's gone from strength to strength. And
it'll keep getting better.
Just having it here, this
it's cool.
Great, iconic, cool. Retro venues, perfect. It seems to be all falling into place. And
slowly but surely.
and I know this is only the second time we've done it, but yeah, I'm loving it.
Well, you seen where I was, 12 months ago, 18 months ago, when I'd come in the gym looking like a fucking wreck. And, you know, if you deserve it, that universal server.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's just, well, the thing is, they say the two most important days in your life are when you're born and when you wake up to your purpose.
Yeah, when you
and
understand
you realise why you're here.
Yeah, and I feel like this has given me a purpose. It's given me the incentive to stay away from the old life that I lived. And, you know, you've got to practice what you preach at the end of the day.
And again, like, that life led to this life.
Yeah.
It's all a lesson.
Yeah. Well, like I said I wrote on social media last night, you know, once you've been through that pain, the trauma, the loss.
That's why I had to share, because I did resonate.
That was actually my quote. I made that quote.
Brilliant, yeah. Well, that's the thing. I knew it was from the heart.
Yeah.
And I resonated with that.
Yeah, once you understand, once you've been through that, I think then you not understand your purpose, because I don't believe you ever do truly understand what you're here for, but you get more of an insight as to why you're doing what you're doing.
And
look for the signs.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like purpose can be a moving target as well.
Yeah.
It might not be like a fixed point, but it might develop over time.
Yeah.
So, obviously, everybody knows who you two are. You're both PTs. I want to try and differentiate you two from your own. What did you put? How could you say it? Your attributes. What makes you as in a PT? Because obviously we know PTing is a big part of self-improvement and helping people and helping people get from A to B. So what would you say your main qualities are as a PT, rather than, and don't say fucking leg day?
Well, for me, it's just to say I've gained so much, like, from the sport, and that's the thing. I think that's evident in how I talk about it. I'm very passionate about what I do, and and it's based on a love for the sport, and because the sport for me, it took me out of a really dark place where I shouldn't have been at a very young age, and give me the opportunity to, well, the tools to be able to create a new me.
What was the dark place?
Well, it was something physically wrong with me there. I don't really want to go into detail, but it really affected me for a while. I kept it to myself. It was a typical guy thing. Yeah, and kind of wrecked part of my life. Yeah, so I kind of built this arm plating round, really, and that's obviously a mental and physical,
right,
like armour, and gave me the chance just to concentrate on something else and get through it like that, day to day. And that's how we get through mental health issues day to fucking day. And what we try to do to get through them is to gain the tools, the strength to be able to overcome. Because everything does happen for a reason.
Cool.
And let's say everything from that point helped me to where I am today. Like, even like meeting my wife.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for my wife, I'd be dead multiple times.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm so grateful.
I think a good woman can do that to you. I'm in a similar position now.
But going away from the dogs, so it's giving back to, and they say the people I train are my friends.
Yeah.
So and I love lifting people's spirits, not just teaching them how to like build big muscles, but some days people are having a really bad day, and I know that like training for all of us like lifts our spirits, and you always walk out of the gym a better person than you walked in. So I like to give that person that and elevate their spirit, because I know it's only an energetic thing.
Yeah.
So if I can get them into the right energetic space, I can
cool.
help tune them into a better version of themselves.
What about you, Dino?
Well, I wouldn't put myself in the same category as Daz in terms of the way Daz has got so much experience, so many accolades in bodybuilding, and like,
well, I'd see you as more professional than me.
but
that's what separates us. We're not all the same. That's what being a PT is about. Is putting your own personality into what you do, I'd imagine.
And for sure, in terms of like because to an extent, like to a degree, in terms of physique development and things, they're quite simple processes. But it is the person that's delivering it that's going to make the difference. And me and Daz are unique. Everybody's unique.
Yeah,
so like Daz has got his unique selling points. I've got my own. In terms of what differentiates us, we probably can't. We probably have more in common than we've got not in common. If that makes sense.
Definitely.
But
that is the thing. It's just a generational thing.
Yeah, and what separates us is just our origin stories and potentially why we got into doing what we're doing, and then we're going to potentially then speak to other people. Although I think we could probably speak to the same people to an extent as well, but we'll speak to other people because they're going to resonate with us more, one or the other. And for me, like the reason why I'm not an in-person personal trainer, but I do online coaching, and the reason why I got into online coaching.
So that's the main differential.
Yeah.
You did own a gym though at one point, didn't you?
Yeah. So I've been doing something in the health and fitness space since 2012 when me and Adam Mead, obviously Mido, when we
zone.
When we went
into those ages.
That was fucking brilliant, Jim.
I know, some decent years. So 2012 to 2016 we had a gym, and that's when I really actually dipped my toe in the water and started doing, again, not personal training, but just having conversations with lads in the gym.
Yeah.
And then realizing just having a conversation with somebody, they're not necessarily, the main benefit people are getting aren't necessarily from just going to the gym, the physical side of things, but people will come and have a chat for half an hour after training session.
So I read something the other day when I was just touching on how people go about their social lives these days, and because the pubs are shutting down and things like that, a lot of people are just using gyms just for that social experiment.
I definitely get that sense because I'm in that nightclub on a Friday night.
Yeah.
And it's getting busier by the week, to tell you.
Me and Mido used to say we were the least well-paid psychologists.
Yeah.
Because we weren't getting any money because we're when you've got your own business, you bloody.
This thing with PT and just the gym business, isn't it? It's definitely a people business.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be. I think if you're not a people person, I think your job you're going to fucking fail.
And that's one big point. I think what me and Daz definitely have in common is we're in it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
You can always see when somebody's, because a lot of people think
the sport.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's an easy way to make money or whatever, and it's not.
Far from.
But would you say it's a massively profitable business? You know,
it depends on your why you get into the game. That's not the reason. And for a lot of people, it is exactly that. But they've kind of lost touch about what's the sport and what bodybuilding is all about.
And that sort of builds me on to the next two questions that I've got for you. The first one is, you get somebody come to yourself now, never trained in their lives, struggled with some serious darkness over the last couple of years.
Yeah, all the time.
How do you go? What would be your first couple of steps to implementing that person into your process? And
make friends.
I'll let Daz go first, and then I'll
relate to a person.
And the reason that I ask that is because there's going to be people that watch this or watch other things like this who are struggling like fuck and scared, just simply scared to approach somebody like yourselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're dealing with their whole perception of what the gym actually is.
And that's
So if anything, first stages are literally breaking perceptions, and I say I see myself, especially for those type of clients, as a tour guide. So I'm selling the sports really, and the gym lifestyle now is incredible. Mm-hmm. Back when I first started, all them years ago, it was a completely different industry. Gyms were proper done.
Yeah,
this was
the raw iron
back in the 80s when it was just about the raw iron. No brands of machines. All our gym owners literally made welded their machines together from pictures from magazines. Whereas now, it's become a massive industry, and going through the 90s and that, and the evolution of sports. Now it's become a lot more mainstream. The gyms are like nightclubs, and I think the main thing with the sport is the way that girls love it now. That's the thing.
And just going back to the question in terms of having a complete beginner, obviously everybody's an individual, so there's individual barriers that you're going to break down. But there's always a reason why if they've got a goal to get healthier, and that's a very broad goal, but if they've got a goal to get healthier, it's kind of delving deeper and finding out what their barrier is, why they think they're not achieving it, if that's the real root cause of the problem, and then addressing that. But one thing I always like is when I speak to somebody that's a complete beginner, is, and this is to speak to people if they are complete beginners and they want to get into a gym, is don't put too much pressure on yourself to be perfect. Like a lot of people,
I think that's what a lot of people do.
Yeah, they see something. They'll see like, I don't know, some sort of stupid celebrity diet and training, and they're saying I get up at 2 a.m. and I go to a gym and all these things. If you're starting from a baseline of nothing, if you go to a gym once per week, if you eat a little bit healthier, you're making progress.
Yeah.
And I'm a big proponent.
This is the thing.
Sorry, I always go on a tangent, but I'm a big proponent of having the right. So you're probably familiar with. You need to be out of your comfort zone to develop.
Yeah.
And I think there's a area of proximal development where you need to have challenge, but not too little or not too much. If you have too much, you stifle. You're like deer in headlights, and you can't progress.
Well, I've just had that sort of similar
this is
thing
a
this week.
it's a big stepping stone with mental health. This because Jordan Peterson says always like the first step is just making your bedroom.
Yeah.
Make your bed, the first step.
Make your bed.
Yeah, without going off on a massive tangent, that's a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just start with a very, very small step.
Yeah, because you give yourself a sense
builds,
of achievement, don't you?
Yeah.
Early on in your day. So what you just mentioned there about social media and things like that's my next question. You get a lot of people now that the gym's very much glamorized, isn't it, on social media, which is fine. I got no issue with that. But do you think it's over glamorized?
It's about over publicised.
Yeah.
Well,
definitely.
We can all remember a time before social media, can't we?
Yeah.
Completely.
And we know what gyms. Look,
Before cameras.
We've seen the transformation of what gyms were and what they are now.
Completely different now.
Yeah.
Completely fucking different.
And now there's a business model. It used to be you spit and sawdust gym and commercial gym.
Yeah.
And now there's an in between where you've got, and we kind of spoke about this before. You've got gyms with stupidly good equipment.
Yeah.
But they're not a traditional commercial gym, and they're attracting so many different types of demographics. And I suppose we delve into it a bit deeper, but I mean, is it a good thing how it's transformed? Or
yeah, I mean, for me now, you look at social media and it just advertises perfection.
Well,
I completely disagree with perfection because for me, the likes of myself and everybody else, I think the gym's somewhere where you go to let your fucking emotions, to get rid of all your shit and your demons. And
I've got a question.
Well, it's become the new church as well as
the
club.
I think for some people it is, like you say, a business model.
It's a place where you can lose yourself and find yourself.
I've got a question for Daz, then. As your body image, in terms of like how you feel about the way you look, since social media, would you think that's been affected? And if it has it been negatively or positively affected?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a really good question because, that's the thing. Back in the day, when we never had social media or phones or pictures or anything, you had to get progress pictures were taken with a camera, and you had to get them pictures developed.
And they're not going to see the detail in terms of what you can see now.
No, at all. And with the advent of filters and stuff like that, it's probably, I think, it's put too much pressure on people to be in shape constantly. I
think it's made it more difficult for beginners to come into a gym and make that first step. I think it's more difficult now.
Yeah.
I think back in the day when we were younger, obviously you guys, the older generation, you'd come in, you'd see the older guys, you'd go there for a few weeks and then they'd know that you're loyal, then they'd show you what to do. These days it's it's completely different now.
And to kind of...
That's the big thing that's lost. That's where I learned from.
To talk about my experience going to a gym and to kind of expand on that a little bit, it was an intimidating place.
Yeah, tell us about your first day in a proper gym, and I'll say mine because mine's classic.
Yeah, I was lucky, and lucky because Mido, so Adam, best mate, his dad opened a gym literally around the corner from our house.
Legend.
Yeah, he opened his own gym on the coast road in between Preston.
I remember it. Yeah, I remember it.
So 16, me and Adam. At the time I was doing judo, and I was getting into the adult ranks in judo. I did well as a junior, and then so I was like 8.5 stone as a junior and competing against people in my weight class. Then started going to the adult classes. And just getting literally the bouncers, MMA fighters.
All the real bouncers there throwing you around.
Yeah, literally just flipping me around. I was like, put the crash mat out or something. Anyway, so my first experience in the gym was, I need to get bigger to compete in judo. And everybody inside gym, to me, at the time, maybe not, but at the time, they were giants. And I was,
of course, because you're a kid, aren't you?
But luckily, because it was an intimidating place. So talking about gyms nowadays are intimidating, but in a different way. But now, going back to then, luckily I had enough goal value to be like, I need to put on muscle, otherwise I've got to quit judo, and that kept me going. But I think a lot of people going into that environment potentially wouldn't like it. But it's a different challenge. But yeah. But yeah, how was your
different world?
Yeah, first experience.
Well, obviously this was like back, like when I was 15.
Yeah.
So like back years and years ago, started training in a garage, and a guy who lived down the road was a bouncer, Mark Sylvester. Later on, I trained his son for a contest.
Is that Lee's dad?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Powerhouse.
It come full. The story literally became full circle.
Yeah.
So I used to walk past with his dog like every day. We were training in the garage, like we were still in school, and so he let me my first Mr. Olympia, the 1984.
Yeah, watch it on repeat.
Sergio Oliva on stage, Bob Paris, Tom Platz, Lee Haney, like won his first Olympia that year. Muhammad Makawi,
one of the best Olympians.
These are like legends. It's a different time. This was the time of like Rocky, Rambo, Karate Kid. Yeah. So my first trip to like was in the summer holidays on like a bike adventure, kind of like Stand By Me type, like with your mates.
Find any dead bodies.
Literally, yeah. It was the thing that was dead by then was all legs, because this was obviously the first proper gym, and that's the thing back then. We only had like the muscly guys on the movies. They weren't walking around the street. So they were all in these places, these gyms. So they were like dark and dungeon-esque. And the characters who frequented the gyms back then were proper legendary characters. So we had like Big Carl, and there was no like gym kits, so there were like jumpers and bloody boots and everything.
That was going to be
Reg Palmer from the hills, like Graham Bevan and like Al the Army. Graham like competed as well. Like legends, and say like those were those same characters that we learnt from. But say all the machines were like all homemade and like welded together. I think I've still got like video footage of that. But
that'd be cool to see.
They'll try and dig it out.
That's what I mean.
Because that's the thing back then when you think about the machines now, like the latest machine was just like a hack squat or like a leg press, a lat pull down with a cable. But that was it.
You look at everybody in the gym now, and like you're saying there, a lot of back in the day it was all hoodies, big fucking tracky bottoms, boots, rigger boots on, stuff like that.
Yeah.
These days now, it's fashionable.
It's a fashion.
It's fashionable.
And which obviously again business model. There's a lot of money to be made in it, but
there is. Yeah, everyone wants it. Yeah, because of that fact, everyone wants a little piece of it. But I say that's what I feel one of my functions is to get that normal guy and say there's nothing to worry about, mate. So you say like give them a taste, and once they can like get that little catch that bug and like get that little bit of love for what they do.
I definitely think it's good to put that message across, because over the last couple of weeks since I've been advertising what I'm doing here, you get a lot of people messaging, mainly lads, saying, I'm struggling. I really want to go to the gym, but I'm really struggling to get out of this fucking rut that I'm in. And, the ale's got hold of me.
Not firing someone.
Yeah, and I think hearing that from people like yourselves, and even me, I've been in and around gyms for long enough.
A massive, sorry to interrupt, but a massive benefit, if you're feeling like that, a massive benefit of going to a gym is, you tangibly you're doing something positive for yourself.
Oh yeah.
I mean, helpful behaviours feed into other helpful behaviours, and on the reverse, if you do something that is like making your life worse in some capacity, you're gonna do something else and do something else. Yeah. So you need to make the choice to make the right steps, and just going to the gym.
And each step, the gym being one, food being another, affirmations being another, loads of different things, loads of different hacks that someone like the normal person can implement into their routine, because we've been kept blind from this respect. We should have been taught about how this works from school.
Yeah.
We should have been taught yoga. We should have been taught about proper nutrition and what proper different foods do. If
not cardio,
from an early age.
Fuck cardio.
Yeah, but the way of the world.
I think again, I've got the topic of newcomer in my head. How I'm trying to approach asking you these things. But I think after the first week, I think if you guys have a new person start training, I think after the first week it sort of just blends into, you embody it then, don't you?
Plan your first week.
Yeah.
Like set the goal, whatever your goal might be, and it could be a specific goal in terms of I want to lose weight or whatever it might be, or it could just be I just want to feel more confident. Set that goal, and then have a time frame in mind, and then just plan your first week, and then go out and do it, and just do that first week. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
I mean, like if you can get through that first week,
Small changes.
Yeah. If you can get through the first week, that's gonna set you up for success going forward.
All adds up.
I think
daily routine.
I did it last year. You see me at the beginning of last year. I was, fucking rough as hell. I was struggling, and by August I'd lost 5 stone.
Yeah. You're much better.
Mentally solid.
Yeah.
And then obviously
it reaches a point where you got to do something.
Yeah, well, and I did.
Otherwise,
and
another reason.
Yeah, otherwise I was in a box. I was going into a box into the ground. But I think after August I went on holiday, and on holiday you eat food and you have a little drink and you sort of chilling out. And I never
different energy.
Yeah, but I never sort of refocused myself when I come home, and then obviously the build up to Christmas, and you're like, it's Christmas, and so you put a bit of, I've put about 2 stone back on since summer last year, but I'm in the mind, me and you had a chat last night, and from now, up until...
Yeah, what did I say? It's just putting the right rules in place on a daily basis and committing to that routine.
Yeah.
And like before long, you are that different person.
Yeah.
It's say like we are in nature, we are multiversal. We're every version of each other, but each version of it is set at a different frequency. You've got the low moody, low frequencies, or your highest frequency.
You were always pretty good at picking that up off me.
Yeah,
I'd come into a gym and he'd know if I was fucking
in an energy
fed up, down, happy. One day I'd come in and he'd say, "Fucking hell, you look good." The next day he'd come in, he'd go, "Fucking hell,
you
look like shit."
But that's experience.
Yeah.
In essence, that's what we are. We're energy. And say like when you become a bit sensitive, a bit more, we'll see people more like through their eyes rather than yours. You know what I mean? You can feel how a person's feeling by how they're like talking and speaking and walking
and probably the first step is the awareness, recognise it in yourself, and then you can recognise it in other people.
Right, boys, we'll go for a cup of tea. 15-minute break.
And a week. As I'm over 50.
Small bladder syndrome.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. What did you think? It was all right, wasn't it?
Yeah, loved it.
Good conversation.
Well, that's the thing.
I thought we were talking about the piss. Sorry,
What did you think of that?
Relief.
So I think where we left off, but I want to talk about body dysmorphia as well. I think that's a big issue when it comes to the mental aspects of going to the gym. A lot of people, I think I suffer with it a lot.
Yeah, 100%.
I say it to me missus a lot of the time. It's like I don't feel big. She's like, Lee, you're fucking 6'6" and 21 stone. But for me, I look in the mirror and think, fuck, you look terrible. Don't get me wrong, I don't look as good as you
Dude,
guys.
I'm like that now.
Yeah, as you're prepping for Mr. Universe.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, yeah. But I can see that different version of me. We've all got that perception of what we want to look like.
And I think the
key to it is to use that as the fire to make the change.
Not letting it stifle you and to actually take action. But everyone's got a different frame of reference. So because this is a conversation. So I have a conversation with people often, and they'll say, like, if I speak about my physique negatively, they'll tell me to shut up because they'll say I'd kill to look like you, and I'm not. I don't think I look brilliantly. And
you do. You look better than probably 90% of the people.
But then it's, and I think me and Daz can speak to this. It's the frame of reference because I don't compare myself to 90% of people. I compare myself to people I'm going to be stepping on stage with against. And
so you compare yourself to the 10% rather than the 90%.
And with social media, and I'm sure this is going to be a big topic, but social media only portrays and only puts out the extremes.
Yeah, and this is what when I mentioned glamorizing before, what I mean is it just shows you all the good, the ripped fucking massive people and the bikini models.
And, as we've seen with like recent professional contests over the last decade, when are they ever as diced and sharp and dry as when they're in those pics 5 weeks before with some mega filter? It's always that lesser version. Filters
and editing. And I think one of the worst things is filters on our phones and taking pictures and change like because we start to think it's real, changing the way that we look, putting it out on social media, and then feeling like we need to live up to that standard. And it's not necessarily this conversation, but that's a massive problem in society.
But that's a whole social media. It's a virtual world. People build through social media virtual versions of themselves.
Yeah.
So not the real you.
So
it's just some version of that you think's going to be okay.
Yeah. How would you say that you conquer body dysmorphia or live within it and feel comfortable with? How do people deal with that? Because
in the business
it's a big issue with teenagers, and
we have the tools, the skills to be able to make any change, mentally or physically. It's just about literally taking massive action in positive steps forward to changing the way you feel. There's no need to if something's playing on your mind, if there's an issue, it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
It's there for you to make that change.
And I think there's two problems that exist at the same time. One is what you're consuming on social media, potentially. What you're consuming and what standard or ideal you think you should be holding. And the second one is the emotion. So probably, if we talk about words like being authentic and words like shame. So shame is, guilt is when you've done something wrong or you feel like you've done something wrong.
Yeah.
Shame is when you feel like you're wrong, if that makes sense. Shame is when you feel like something about you is wrong. Yeah. And body dysmorphia is potentially on that shame spectrum. It's a branch of it because you feel like you're not good enough in some way.
Yeah. So I know that feeling very well.
There's addressing that element of it, and I think and probably a conversation we're going to lead on to, because people try to medicate that in some way.
Yeah.
But the challenging thing is to actually sit with that feeling and try and work out why you're feeling it, and then you can try and overcome it. But probably the most difficult thing is sitting with the feeling.
Well, and I think that walks...
It's a massive part of the process.
Well, that walks hand in hand with actual mental health, because I think my biggest achievement over the last 2 years, I think, is sitting down with my own shadow.
Yeah.
Sitting down with my own reflection and looking at it and addressing it and, chipping away at it and trying to get rid of certain parts of that reflection and add better parts in. So I think...
You can, and that's the thing, you're perfectly able to do that.
You just... I think
you've got to reprogram yourself.
I definitely think you're right, Dean, there. I think the first part of anything is addressing the root cause of your problem.
Because when you don't, the symptoms show up, and the symptom might be isolation, anger, like something like distraction. Something will show up, and until you actually address it, those problems are going to exist.
I've done that for most of my life.
Well, this is the thing. Like, I talked about those issues I had as a kid, but I only realised this through back end of last year. We have things that happen in our lives that, unless we address them at the time,
you lock them away.
Buried and dormant.
Yeah, you lock them away.
They're locked away. Guys are the best at this, to the point where it's coming out of their fucking ears, right? But those little things affect you on a daily basis.
They affect everything that you do.
So unless you're able to heal these different parts of yourself, then they say it's like filling that missing jigsaw puzzle in that spot. And since I've did that work, and it all comes down to inner work. Yeah. This is all through meditation, sitting with those feelings. And what these are not hoo-ha things. These are powerful tools that have been used for thousands of years by people.
What I find ironic about it is we're conditioned, and I'm certainly not perfect in this regard. We're conditioned to think that suppressing our emotion is the stronger thing to do.
It's not, though.
Yeah,
it's really not.
Ironically, having self-compassion and addressing it, that's the hardest, most difficult part to do. But it's easier then to just to pull the wool over your eyes and go, I'm just going to suppress it. Men don't show emotion. Yeah. Men don't do this. Let's just put it to one side and never address it.
I had a guy like I was saying before, there's a lot of people at the moment messaging me. I'm struggling, and they've just seen them little clips. You haven't even put the videos out yet. Yeah, seen little clips that's helped me, and
amazing.
So I had a guy the other night, and he said, he didn't want to come on the podcast. He just addressed the fact that he's struggling. So I said, if you want to come on in or if you want to speak, no problem. I'm all right. And his answers were, I'm all right, I'll just get on with it. And it's not the fucking answer. You've got to have that empathy towards yourself and the understanding of your own emotions to become a better person.
In the last podcast, like I did with you, it's that the old response, I'm fine. Which basically is
we're not fine though.
Inwardly negative. That's the thing. Is the ultimate mask. I'm fine.
Yeah.
But like part of the reason that you don't want to burden anyone with the weights of like.
But the thing is, having that conversation. I spoke to Carl Mather in the gym the other day about the podcast. We sat there. We ended up sitting there for half an hour.
I know. I had the similar type conversation, and Carl's a good example because
he's coming on Monday.
Positive,
he's coming
incredible.
on Monday.
Yeah, I think. The various conversations we've had have led into this point. And he was saying how, like, he wouldn't like to see what the inside, but I said that's what makes him a warrior. Yeah. These are the people, the qualities in people that people can truly relate to. They say they see all my bodybuilding picture training in the gym, but I say there's different things that have happened in my life, and a lot of people are aware of the various things that have happened.
And we've got enough experience now competing. Some of the people with, so often bodybuilding can be just a distraction from something you need to address.
It's a form of therapy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, for me, it was a primal screen. After Von died, it was my primal screen for like that, like few months.
Yeah.
I had to torture myself. It's like a form of self-harm.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
And especially
Controlled, the highest form of controlled self-harm.
Physically and mentally, because physically you're suffering in terms of restricting your food intake and doing cardio and all these things, and dropping body fat, simple process but not easy. And then mentally, because you know you're going to step on stage and you know you're going to be competing against other people, and you just pick yourself apart, and somewhat that's kind of the nature of it, because it's a subjective sport and you're going to be judged by strangers. But like mentally and physically, it can be a bad path to go down, for sure.
In what sense? What?
Well, the thing is, if you're in a fragile state anyway, and then putting yourself in a more fragile position,
So you feel you feel vulnerable.
It needs to be this right type of person. It's all a matter of
What's it like standing on stage?
The actual stage part.
I've been on stage since I was 15.
So I'm quite an introverted person by nature.
You're quite quiet and placid, aren't you?
Yeah. So people
think you're funny, but you're not.
That's not true. But
Yeah,
Jesus
exactly.
Christ.
Everyone knows it's hilarious.
I like watching his videos on social media.
I love his videos.
I'm not tensing.
He's
He
inspired
just looks
me
like
to
a
make
cheeky,
videos.
14-year-old. And it's cool. It's cool.
But
it takes a lot to be able to hold someone's attention. That's the thing.
Because he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah,
That's why.
exactly.
the stepping on stage. So for me, stepping on stage. So I've been asked questions like, or not necessarily asked questions, but people will say something like, they're just surprised that I do it because of the way I am. Obviously hilarious, but quite introverted. But when just to really like brass tacks of it, when you're on stage, the lights are so bright, you don't really see anybody. So you don't. It's not all the nerves, and also you've been preparing for it for a number of months. But I never get any nerves or anything like that. No.
It is your perception of what the stage is. That's the thing. I've got like clients now who are prepared for first contests, and it's always that thought of. But it's always the thought of anything.
Yeah, it's worse, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the fear of the unknown. I guess. I'm surprised that you don't get. I'm surprised you don't get nervous.
What you got to understand, Lee, is that there's so many things to think about when you're on stage.
And that's what I was going to say.
It's such a completely different part of the sport. Everyone thinks, you train, you get your muscles, and you just stand there showing it off. No.
Yeah.
It's a completely different part of the sport.
It's like a dance routine, really, and it's more. It's
ballet on stage.
Do you focus? Well, Arnie used to do ballet lessons, didn't he?
Well, I come from a dance background. That's why I love my routines.
What do you say when you're up there? You're simply just focused on you as a person and each movement that you're doing, or you're just completely in the zone.
There's so many technicalities to the actual art of posing, and that's the thing. Like I've been doing this like over 35 years, and I'm still learning. And the art of actually presenting your physique in optimal condition and getting that flow to your pose, and it is literally, and this is why I do it. It's art.
It's
expression.
Exactly. Yeah.
And to be able to communicate a feeling to an audience through like a piece of music, and to actually get that feeling, so that the people have got like goosebumps on from the music and the movements and just resonating with the whole experience. That's a magical golden opportunity, and it's one I'm not going to waste. So if I can inspire people like through what I do on stage, I'm not there for me. I'm there to represent what bodybuilding means to me. Yeah. This is the true essence of what bodybuilding is about. It's not about contests and trophies and titles and all this. It's about the sport, and the sport for us is, I grew up with legendary bodybuilders who were, before social media, like movie stars. And when these people even came over here for seminars and you heard them talk, it was like, awestruck. Whereas we've lost that sense with social media now. Yeah. And especially like when people, like when these pros back then stood on stage at a seminar or anything, it was like, whoa, behold.
You would look at them like gods, wouldn't you? You'd be like,
gods.
Yeah.
My gods.
Just going back to it, my biggest mistake in my first competition was what Dad said. I thought, train, diet, cardio, that's it. And I didn't do this. Being on stage was an afterthought. And then I got on there, and although I wasn't nervous, I didn't know what I was doing at all, posing wise, and like all of the hard work, preparation I put into it was just wasted because, like,
when you say you didn't know what you're doing, you mean the movements, how to show certain sides of you.
And at the time, I could pose in the gym mirror and look half okay, like, you know, hitting a couple of poses. Yeah. But in terms of like actually the illusion and showing your physique and we'd have to do a full podcast, more than a full podcast talking about it. But every single pose.
That's the beauty of this.
Literally, it is that technical.
Yeah.
I think this is part of the sport. Everyone thinks, I want to do a show, but they forget about that part of it.
Yeah, every single pose you could break down and spend like an hour on it. And then the next, and you've got four quarter turns, 8 mandatories.
What's your favourite pose?
Probably now, possibly the back double bicep. Maybe, because I've finally built a bit of a back, but we'll see.
What's yours?
It's probably
down on one knee with the arm up in the air. You see
that
one
easy.
No, it's probably like side tricep shot. I think.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But
you do.
Yeah, if you can get a shot where it's kind of, I come from a time when bodybuilders had kind of like their own signature poses, like Betty DeMay and Sean Ray and like Lila Brada. And you say that's when it was like more art. And I say that the whole art of being involved in the sport is perfecting that sculpture. Say I wouldn't even call this like bodybuilding, it's body and sculpture, because especially at my stage, say I'm trying to literally like carve like the intricate detail in that masterpiece. This is my masterpiece. So like when you've got a pose where you've nailed every component of that part, and it's like boom, 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 and it's like, nice. But it's like doing a painting, literally. But it's like Arnold says in Pumping Iron about like building the statue.
You touched on it before, where you said that a lot of people, because they're looking for perfection, medicate. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we know steroids walks hand in hand with a lot of bodybuilding and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. What I've got to worry, what I see a lot of now is kids. Mm-hmm. Kids. I think as you get older, you learn to understand your body a bit more and things like that. And if that's the road that you want to, but kids.
But so I'll talk, and Daz will probably have a lot to add on this. When I first stepped foot into a gym, so 2008, I think 2007, 2005, I can't remember. Whenever I was 16, a couple of years ago now, talking about steroids was taboo. Even though lads in the gym took them, nobody spoke about it.
Yeah. Even then.
Yeah. Nowadays, with social media, and I think we did it because they were older, but they had the foresight because they knew the potential dangers of somebody doing it young and whatnot. So, but nowadays, you've got on social
for one, the fucking Trent twins on Instagram.
Yeah, you've got all these
dickheads.
Yeah, you've got all these dickheads on social media talking about like 16-year-olds. They go viral, and I'll talk about the cycle here. They go viral talking about this is my first cycle, and they're fucking 16's first step.
Well, this is what I'm saying. And sorry to interrupt, I'll let you go back to it. Yeah. The only reason that I asked this question is because suicide at the moment, globally, if you look, I'd probably say 10, 15% maybe, is around recreational drug use, steroid use, toxic relationships. Yeah. And it, put all that together, and there's a lot of men in that sort of circle who end up taking too much gear and fucking killing
No,
themselves.
but that's the thing. Like the sad thing is, it's a form of self-medication.
Yeah,
They're
definitely.
trying to like literally fill that hole themselves.
But here's the thing with the young generation coming up, which we can't relate to. If you ask them what they want to be, not obviously not all of them. Some of them will say a YouTuber or an influencer or social media, whatever. So when they see, and they're very interested in the gym, if they see some dickhead talking about taking gear at 16, and there might be like 1,000 kids doing this, one of them goes viral and gets a stupid amount of views. Then they see that and they think, right, okay, I replicate that and I'll achieve that result.
Yeah.
And they don't know the dangers and the side effects.
Yeah.
And when you're 16 to 25, 16 to 21, you're much less risk averse. You know, your prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed. Like, there's a reason why army recruiters want people at that age. But, you know, they're the people are going to be less averse to taking risks.
Yeah. You're receptive.
Malleable.
So going back to my experience, luckily, when I was 16 going to a gym, because it was taboo, I wasn't even aware of it. I remember speaking to Mido, and I was like, when I was like 17, 18, I said, Mido, do you think Ronnie Coleman's natural? And, you know,
He was to a point now.
But that's how naive I was to it at 18. Nowadays, with social media and all the exposure and all these things, you know, an 18-year-old knows that people take gear. They know what it is. I mean, just the awareness of it is going to open that door potentially.
I think because you've got the awareness of it in social media, I think, you know, the conversations need to be had on the safety, you know, the dangers, the risks, the safety aspect of taking it. Because if you don't do it properly,
I don't think a lot of people know how gear works.
100% agree.
I think they literally think it's a magic pill.
Yeah, you inject it, and all of a sudden you're huge.
This is
I keep when I had the zone, when me and Mido were running the zone, I had lads 16, just turned 16, come to a gym to join up, and they've been taking gear and not even training. Yeah. They said their mate gave them a bottle of whatever, and they've been taking it, and 3 months, and they've put on size because if you even if you don't train, you'll respond. And then they come to the gym, and I'm like, what the fuck are you want? And then and same. I won't name any names. His name was no joke, but same. I had a lad 16.
I get a little list.
I had a lad who was 16 talking to me, saying he couldn't get an erection with his missus, and I was like, okay, so then
16.
Yeah, 16, and I don't want to know how old his missus was, because anyway, but hopefully she was over. But telling me he couldn't get an erection because he'd been taking, I don't know, a Dynabol and whatever, like taking some steroids. And I think it wasn't. I don't think it was actually the gear that was doing it to him. I think it was in his own head.
Yeah,
but because he read side effects to it, you can't perform. And he was like asking me for Viagra and all these things. I was just like, well, I can't help you, mate.
This is such a typical thing, and it's only like one part of like it's such a chemical, like temporary, quick fix generation. Whereas, like, we seem to have lost the ethic of hard work and building a sense of pride in self, which is the key components to what our sport is.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. Self-discipline.
And bodybuilding is the ultimate, well, potentially not the ultimate, but the ultimate form of delayed gratification. Because, you get...
I tell like it's a form of slow acting cosmetic surgery.
Yeah.
Literally.
That's a good way of putting it. But yeah, nowadays, and it's human nature to a degree, people want the fastest results. But the wrong question always to be asking is like, how can I lose fat as quickly as possible? Or like, what are the best fat burners? Or like trying to get immediate results and thinking that there's a shortcut away from the hard work.
The ironic nature of this is they're trying to get.
Well, everybody wants things now, don't they?
Yeah.
As humans, we want it now, don't we?
Immediate effect with a temporary drug.
Yeah.
That they need to retake to get that same effect.
And
this is the problem. Instead of working on, and this is the thing with bodybuilders, competitive bodybuilders, utilizing like steroids to take their physiques to another level. And this is the thing, like bodybuilding is biochemical engineering, and steroids and steroid juice is the most finely tuned part of that, the true science of the sport, when you truly know how things work.
Yeah.
And this conversation isn't to demonize steroids.
No. And that's what I'm going to get to once you've finished. So what I want to say to you both is, if you can give an 18-year-old lad one piece of advice on the gym life in general, whether it be steroids, diet, training, self-discipline, everything. If you can just give them, I don't know, one little piece of advice, what would it be? For all,
Eat food. Food is what makes you grow, not drugs. That's it. But people can take the drug part and forget about the food. Yeah. Well, unless you've got the food and the training, the drugs don't work.
I think
just as Verb said,
they need to do the research as well. I think.
Mine would be a little bit more cliche, but it's to not focus on the destination, but to focus and enjoy the journey.
It's always the journey. Yeah, it's definitely.
Well, how old are you now, Des?
53 this year.
And your journey's fucking, you're
still progressing.
That's what I mean.
I'm on a new beginning.
A lot of people at 50 wouldn't even be walking into a gym. They'd be saying, I'm done. My time was 20 years ago.
I see my time now is that I'm here to inspire that that 40s, 50s who thought that life was over. No, I'm here to tell you it's just beginning.
And I'm a testament to that. I look at Daz and take inspiration every day.
Yeah, massively. I think if you don't, then I think you're in the wrong game.
Yeah.
I think anybody who goes to a gym and doesn't look at Daz and say, well, I do, I'm
the thing is, we're all in the same game, and I get the same inspiration from everyone else around me.
Yeah.
Literally.
I learned last year that I can do it. Because for a long
time, you did, yeah.
Because I've always been a big, heavy set lad. I've all the men in my family are all big shoulders, fucking. And I always thought I'm always going to be just mass. I'm never going to be able to get lean. And within,
but you've just told yourself that. That's the thing.
Yeah. So me and my missus had the conversation. You tell you something enough times in your head, you will become it.
I speak to clients.
I'm shredded every
day. Yeah, but I done it though. Within. I thought it was over 8 months. My missus said to me the other day, she went, no. She said it was about 10 weeks. I lost 5 stone in about 11 weeks just from cardio, diet,
from
training.
Committing to a purpose.
Every day.
Goggins style.
Yeah, so I know I can do it.
Mentality.
Yeah, I always pay careful attention to the words people are using, because even when they say something in jest, if you say something enough times, you believe it.
So you're saying about ingesting different things. And that's the thing. So it's actually telling yourself, programming yourself with your own negative affirmation.
It's actually a Bruce Lee quote. Bruce Lee actually quoted it.
Yeah,
so,
mate.
Yeah, your mate. Yeah. So he actually said, I can't remember the specific quote itself, but again, that's the conversation I had with my missus the other day. I jokingly say now, because I'll put a bit of weight back on, I'm fat as fuck.
Yeah.
And she goes, stop telling yourself. And I said, well, she said, you're not fat. You've put a bit of weight back on since Christmas, but I'm naturally a big person. So for me to get lean, it just takes a bit of hard work. But at the moment, I'm not doing that hard work. I'm just enjoying normalities. But to get anything, it's not fucking easy, is it?
No, but that's what makes that's the thing with the prep.
The
prep is the most difficult journey done properly that any human being can undertake. I swear to God, because compared to any other sport, no other sport does it on restricted calories. Trying to take your mental and physical self to that place, and to get to that place where you're stood in optimal condition on stage. You've literally gained so much than just the physique. Standing on that stage and you say what's it like standing on stage? When you've worked hard, I'm fucking damn proud of everything I've fucking achieved to be there. So I'll show that crowd, that audience, those judges, exactly what I've done and why I'm there.
That's cool.
I've worked every day for that fucking title. Exactly.
And to talk about bodybuilding in that sense, it is the only sport, only sport where you feel your worst when you're performing, when you're on stage. I mean, obviously you can
make sense because you're just lack of energy, tired.
Yeah, well, you're trying to I fucking took it down too far sometimes where I felt proper ill on stage, because that's the thing. My mates have said you look like fucking see-through, but when you feel like shit, you can't see that.
Yeah,
it's how you feel.
Because you've got to once you get sub 10% body fat, the body just starts fighting you, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing? And then the leaner and leaner and leaner you get, it just becomes, it goes into survival mode.
When you talk about mental health,
probably thinks that you're dying or something.
Literally 5-4 weeks before a show, you can be at the end of a bed going just head in your hands, why the fuck am I doing it?
It's painful to sit down. You have to psych yourself up if you have to walk upstairs. It's
I think you've been in that mindset. Yeah. But you've still got fucking 40 minutes of cardio to do that night. That's got to get done.
Yeah.
this is the places you got to, and then when you get up and on, you train again. All starts again, and you've still got another 4 or 5 weeks of this. How the fuck do you handle that?
The painful to sit down is because you lose so much fat off your glutes when you get stage lean. Like if you sit in a harder surface, like you'd have to take a pillow. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Like I said to my dad, because my dad's diabetic, and he's like about his levels all the time. And I was like, Dad, like fucking when dieting comes, you don't like that with a hyperglycemic coma most of the fucking day, riding that wave.
Just waiting for the next meal.
Literally counting the seconds.
Right, boys, I've got 2 questions before we finish here. So I've asked this to everybody. I've had some interesting ones. A couple of people have said the same things. 2 questions. What do you see yourself do? What do you see yourself completing, or what's your biggest goal for the next 12 months? And if you could get 3 people to sit around the dinner table, 1 of them's from your family, 2 from the past, any generation, any era, whoever you want it to be.
How many do we
3.
need to? 3 people.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to go first?
So next 12 months, where's your goals for the next 12 months?
Next 12 months. You see, I have personal goals. I have financial goals potentially. I have quick
draw. These are.
Which is most important? What's your priority? What dream would you like
if
to
you could
realize?
Easy one.
Simple, easy answer. Quick draw. What would it be?
Right, everybody sit down. I've got no. Just literally, to bring my best to stage this year.
Cool. 3 people.
Family. I've got quite an potentially interesting family. I'd really like to meet my great granddad. He was in the Gurkha regiment.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He probably can't speak English, so it'd be a difficult conversation. Honestly, I think I'd just love to have a conversation with my grandma, she passed away when I was like. She had diabetes, passed away when I was about 14, but we moved away from Rochelle. So anyway, grandma. Yeah. I'll go with grandma.
2 people from history, quick. So we've got about 60 seconds left.
Okay.
Well, my 2 people, because I got to bring back people. My wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
My wife.
Yeah.
Just to kind of realise this feeling I've got inside that we will be reunited, because I feel that. I've got such a deep connection to her that, like, it's not we're separated.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
That's cool. We'll leave it there, boys. Appreciate it.
Pleasure, brother.
Nice one, Lee.
Thank you.
Cheers,
that was cool. It was good.